Draft legislation from the Trump administration indicates that he plans on rolling back Obamacare birth control coverage. Now, this was part of the Obamacare mandate that ensured that either employers or private insurers provided coverage for birth control for women. Now, that was a hotly debated topic at the time, and Republicans have been frustrated and furious about it till this day. And as a result, Trump decides that at some point he's going to jump in, probably sign an executive order indicating that if you are either a publicly traded or private company and you have any type of moral or religious issues with providing health insurance that covers contraceptives for women, then you don't have to do it anymore. The Affordable Care Act requires nearly all employers to offer health insurance that covers access to a wide array of contraceptive methods. The draft proposal, if finalized, would significantly broaden the type of companies and organizations that can request an exemption. So what's the exemption all about? I'm sure a lot of you remember the whole Hobby Lobby case. That serves as one exemption. In the Burwell versus Hobby Lobby case, the Supreme Court ruled 5-4 that it could allow closely held private businesses to also exclude birth control from their insurance plans if coverage would violate their religious beliefs, right? Now, the Obama administration said, okay, that's fine. If the company doesn't want to provide that coverage, we'll just make sure that the health insurance, the private insurance come in and they provide the coverage for it. But under Trump's executive order, should he sign it based on this draft legislation, private insurers wouldn't even have to do it. Private insurers can say, well, we have some religious beliefs as well, and as a result of those religious beliefs, we don't want to cover birth control for women. They can go ahead and be exempt because of Trump.
So, look, earlier in the show, we talked about how you shouldn't make assumptions about all Republicans, but at the same time, you should educate yourself on where the parties stand. They're not the same, and the Democratic Party is greatly frustrating and serves their donors way too much, and we fight against that. But the Republican Party is the party that is generally against science, whether it's climate change or it's educators. They say, oh, the Ivy League towers and et cetera. Whether it's the media that they attack because they bring you information. And so if you believe in birth control, which by the way, I think 99% of women take it. I think that's a stat that we covered back when this was in the news during Obamacare. Well, be careful because the Republican Party might make sure that your insurance doesn't cover it. Because as Rush Limbaugh said about Sandra Fluck, that she wanted it because she was a slut.
That's exactly what he said, yeah. Which is interesting because when he's traveling abroad with gigantic bottles of opioids, right, or painkillers, and looking to have sex with randos in other countries, like he's not a slut for doing that,
yeah,
right?
Not only, look, he's a drug addict, so I guess he needs mental health. But in that case, when he was going to the Caribbean, he had gallons full of Viagra. So it wasn't just painkillers.
Oh, it was Viagra as well. Okay.
Yeah, and he was not traveling with a girlfriend or wife, and to our knowledge did not have one in the Caribbean. So it's fairly clear what he was doing there.
Right.
But women who take birth control, in other words, 99% of women are sluts.
Right, based on what he says. Okay, so it's just really fascinating how there is a double standard when it comes to the issue of birth control. Now, why did Obama want to ensure that birth control was covered, either by employers or by private insurance companies? It's because right now the government spends $11 billion a year on unintended pregnancies. Now, if Republicans had their way, they just wouldn't provide any type of support for impoverished women who end up having babies that they can't afford, right? They would just let them, they would show how pro-life they are by snatching any type of government aid from them and letting them fend for themselves. But the reality is, if you want to lower healthcare costs, You have to deal with some of the more costly things that are happening in society. You have to encourage people to have healthier lifestyles. You have to make sure that people, take part in preventative healthcare measures. And one of those preventative healthcare measures is taking birth control if you are not in a position to have a kid. By the way, birth control is actually used for things other than preventing pregnancies. There are women that rely on birth control for a number of different health conditions because it has, off-label benefits as well. But it doesn't matter. These are all nuances and these are all facts that people like Trump and the religious right don't care about. But at the same time, they have no problem with insurance covering Viagra. Like if a guy wants to get a hard on and get his dick wet, that's okay. But if a woman wants to prevent pregnancy or use birth control for some other healthcare related issue, that's unacceptable.
So the last thing is, we don't live in a theocracy. That's for Saudi Arabia and Iran and the Vatican, okay? So I don't care what your religious beliefs are in terms of birth control. Don't care, don't care, don't care. In America, I get to not care. We should all have the ability to get whatever birth control we want and not have it be, but that guy believes in Sharia law and hence doesn't believe in birth control, so you can't get it. Your insurance doesn't cover it, so you gotta pay out of pocket. Well, what do I care about your Sharia law? I would care about your Sharia law if we lived in Saudi Arabia, but we don't. And just because you're a Christian doesn't make it less Sharia law. It is. That's your particular voodoo. I don't care about it. I'm not Christian. I'm agnostic. I don't believe in your voodoo.
Yeah.
So I know I'm not Muslim. I can draw the Prophet Muhammad all day long because I'm not in your religion. And so I'm not in your religion if you're a Christian and you think we all shouldn't take birth control and we should all have 1,000 babies. One, you don't even believe that. And you're not pro-life either. 1,000 stories we've covered where they get abortions and they go, well, I needed one. I'm not like the sluts.
I mean, 1,000 stories we've covered involving childhood hunger, right? Kids living in poverty in this country, which is supposed to be the wealthiest country in the world. Where are the pro-life people holding their signs and talking about how much they want to protect these poor little kids?
Where are the good Christians looking after the poor? That's what Jesus told you over and over again. But look after the poor, look after the needy, look after the poor, look after them. Where are you? Where are you? Claim to be Christian? Okay, and what do you want to do? Oh, go co-welfare, they're welfare queens. So please spare me your religious gumbo jumbo, okay? I don't care what you think Yahweh or Allah thinks, okay? Overwhelming majority of Americans use birth control. Let us have access to it without punishing women and making them pay more because you won't put it into insurance.
Yeah, by the way, then what the hell is the point of insurance, right? If it's not gonna cover health-related issues. Like, what the hell? You're gonna tell private insurance companies, no, you don't have to cover that. You don't have to cover this, you don't have to cover that, you don't have to cover anything. You're gonna charge people a certain amount of money every month, right? You're gonna give them these gigantic premiums and deductibles, but you don't have to cover birth control. It's absurd, And they just don't understand the reason why it was covered in the first place. It wasn't like, hey, everybody go out there and have sex. It's part of preventative care. But again, they don't care about these issues, not even a little bit.
For God's sake, literally in this case. If you believe in a religion, you practice it, not me. You practice it. So if you're one of these religious organizations, you're Hobby Lobby. What the hell is a corporation religious, by the way? Everything about this is insane, okay? Then you go Hobby Lobby in the corner with no birth control and get knocked up for Jesus, okay? I don't care. That's your business. But you can't make it our business. Oh, no, according to my Sharia law, you shouldn't get birth control either. Well, that's like your opinion, man. But the founding fathers made this a secular country. They said we shall have the free exercise of religion and we shall not establish a religion. If you don't like it, get out because you're not American. You just watched the video from the Young Turks. Did you know that there's a live 2-hour show every day and that if you're a member of the Young Turks, you can get that on demand anytime you want without ads? Plus the post game just for members, plus Aggressive Progressives, plus Old School, plus so many other network shows. Go right now, tytnetwork.com/join.